through them, getting my pH to come up and getting my ppms to get down under 1200. Once my ppms are down under 1200, they'll be good for transplant into the Pro Mix. And that Pro Mix, once again, being preloaded, I haven't measured it yet, but I just know that it comes out at a probably 6.2 to 6.5 or something like that, maybe even up higher. It might even be closer to neutral 7. I don't know, but I believe it's 6.5 with the nutrients, but it definitely has an EC. One thing I don't want to do is end up shocking them with too much food. They're already green and they're definitely high. In my own opinion, I mean, they're off the Richter scale for my dipsticks. So if this was a reservoir and I stuck that in the reservoir, then, you know, in theory the plants would be dead. So I'm not quite sure. Again, I don't work with Rockwell, so I'm not going to make a final judgment. All I know is I'm going to flush these out and get them up to that 6.8 that I was talking about. I'm sorry, that 5.8 to 6.2 that I was talking about. Fundamentally, that is, I'm kind of sitting back trying to think right now because it stunted me. I expected that to come out in normal range. Even for hydro, your ppm being off the Richter scale, it tells me the EC in there is huge, but it could be just a Rockwell. It could be my lack of experience with Rockwell. Like I said, I use soilless mixes, but I just tend to stay away from fiberglass. Just the water retention and the attention to detail matters. So it may have something to do with why these readings are coming out the way they are. But either way, we're going to fix it. Aussie-tonic is the first one. I'm just using a little one here because I very rarely need to use this, but this is a great product. Root builder. And again, it's all about stabilizing your roots early on. I mean, when it comes to your roots and you want to get them going, you can use this right through, you know, the whole time, because of course keeping your roots lush and going is important. The best thing for that, I can't promote this enough, Zyme. Now this is again a small amount. These are a small number of plants in a small location, so of course you don't need much more. These come with these packs here. You know, you can buy these down at Pacific Northwest Garden Supply. These nutrient packs come with all of the products for a regular grow, as well as your Zyme like these. You'll get your capsules. Basically, if you're just using jugs for water, you would break one of these in half and do your measurements accordingly, because one capsule does 10 gallons of water. So it's important. But Zyme, I mean, do your research on it. Look it up and how Zyme relates to the roots. It's really some fascinating stuff. I'm not going to get all technical about it, but it is very fascinating. You may think it's a lot of extra stuff that's not necessary, but I can tell you now it's an abundance in maximum yield to increase your root. Your root determines the fruit. So if your roots are good, you'll get good fruit, being your bud. So just remember that term, my friends, and look at how to best establish your root system. Right now is one, to not burn any more root hairs or stress these out any more than possible, and then to recover them by putting some beneficial bacteria, some enzymes, some different things down in there, and of course some stress relief, and again, no nutrients. When these are going to be transplanted into 3-gallon geopots, which are fabric pots, allowing for air pruning. We'll be bringing that to you in another video. And of course, when you transplant something that's already wet into a dry soil mix, you want to wet the top of the soil mix first, make your hole wet inside there, so you're not taking your root hairs, if there's roots sticking out, and frying them on the nutrients that are actually micronutrients that are sitting in there. Because those little root tips are what bring up the uptake of nitrogen. Is fundamental. That's what gives you all your growth. So that's where having these additional things to bring out stress release, as well as root builder and stuff, and Zyme, to allow that uptake of nutrients. You know, that uptake is fundamental. Staying your ppms under 1200, pH between 5.8 and 6.2, all times. You can find your range of comfort. You know, you might feel you can go down to 5.5. It's a choice. You know, I always suggest using your nutrient, because if I say I was watering here, I would want to check my nutrient solution first, okay? And if it's blinking at 600, okay, and I water it through here, and then I check the runoff at the bottom of my pot, I put some extra water in, I checked the runoff on a couple of them to get an idea, and then I noticed that the runoff is running at 1200 and I only put in 6. It tells me that there's a potential nutrient lockout either about to happen or has already taken place. Not to mention the fact the EC is so high in the soil that it's burning my root tips, affecting my uptake, affecting my overall yield and root growth. So my friends, it's fundamental. $100 investment, save your life. In fact, I would say an EC stick, a dipstick like this, is better than having a pH stick, because you can use this at all times to be able to check for nutrient lockout, to have a general idea of where your ppms are. Will also give you a general idea of where your pH is if you've used both sticks for a while. In fact, some of the newer sticks have both ppm and pH. One other point I'll touch on, since we're dealing with liquid, is the fact that when we're dealing with this kind of nutrients, we need to remember temperature changes to EC. So the ppm readings on the temperature depends on the temperature of the water. If you got warm water, you're going to increase your EC through the roof. You know, in this case, these are a little cooler. They're not really warm, but I'm wondering if the cool, you know, may be affecting the counts. But it's something that, this is the reason on this particular one here, I'll ask my camera lady to zoom in, you'll notice we have a temperature gauge. So that temperature gauge allows me to then check the temperature of the water, reservoir, whatever the case may be. You know, whether it's a jug, whatever, you check that, and that's fundamental. You know, once you know that you've got the right temperature, you know your nutrients are going to respond the way they're supposed to at that temperature. You know, and when that temperature, if you don't pay attention to your temperature fluctuations, it's kind of like in the room. You got to keep your room at a certain temperature, your soil base at a certain temperature. Equally, nutrients respond in the soil like they do in the water. All of it's about temperature. It's all about dialing it in. So here we are, new plants, and the last stage, and I'm sure this, I'm not trying to be rhetorical in nature here, my friends. Last stage, when you're dealing with new plants, is to always sterilize your plants before you introduce them to your room. Okay, so this particular person would like to have them sterilized before he puts them in his room. Doesn't want to contaminate any other plants, let alone contaminate his room. So we're going to go ahead and sterilize these. They're already in shock. We're going to flush them, transplant them, then we'll bring the geo bags to you, and we'll talk a little bit about that and a little bit about the nutrients that are going to be used. And once again, I'll ask my camera lady just to zoom in here for me, because my main product I'll be using throughout this grow with this gentleman will be Green Planet Medi 1. You know, this was formulated by Dr. Hornby for Green Planet nutrients and has won just numerous awards and cups around the world, quite frankly. If you want to try this out, we do sell these from the company, as well as at Pacific Northwest Garden Supply. Again, in Surrey, you can pick these up. You may have seen them around. This will give you a bunch of different products to try out from the organic realm. And then this one here will go into the larger feeding program and give you a bigger idea, a little more expensive. The pricing's all on our website. A new addition to our website, and it's really cool because when I first started several years ago with Green Planet Nutrients, they didn't have a website that was really there for the grower, user friendly. If you check out Green Planet, mygreenplanet.com or greenplanet.com, you're going to be able to check and see that, or at the end of our videos actually, you can click and go straight over to the company's site. But there is a nutrient calculator similar to other companies that have nutrient calculators for ours. So if you wanted to know, oh well, this is for, it says on here for a 50-gallon, you know, reservoir. Well, in our case, you could say I'm using only 4 gallons, and it will automatically convert it for you for every nutrient. If you're interested, every nutrient, it's kind of interesting because they have these new scan bars here. Oh, it makes a light already. This one doesn't have it. Okay, here we go. These here. Little scan bars. Now these little things, and all our products have these in general, and you're able to actually take a scan of it, and it will play the movie. And all the movies are available again on. All movies are available on the Green Planet website. Click on that at the end of the show if you'd like. The information will certainly be available throughout the movie. But having that availability to just go to a calculator and put in what do I need for this, in case you're using different water measurements or have a different reservoir size or whatever. Getting the measurements right is also fundamental to a proper feeding regimen. So controlling what it says to feed, and then verifying it scientifically, you know, by making sure that, like in this case, if I didn't check, you know, I got an EC that's off the Richter scale and I don't know why. You know, and I know that water log in the soil isn't good because it's going to smother the roots. So I'm kind of in a predicament in trying to simply figure it out. So I'm just going to drop it down a bit, run the water through it, allow it to go into the transplant, and we'll show you how that will draw the water out of it first. You know, once it's in its pocket and that it's soaked, it'll start to draw it out into the drier soil. And at that point, we should be okay with stabilizing the plants. So I think that's about it. I wanted to cover those things. Most importantly, when they come in, and if you miss this, because growers never talk about this, they don't want to put these kind of plants necessarily up on their show. But for me, this is what you would do anytime somebody brings you either young clones or older plants or a mother. You go over it and you make sure that it's not a hermaphrodite already. Sometimes hermaphrodites don't show until the last week of flower. You know, you've got a beautiful looking plant, all of a sudden one day you go in there and there's a bunch of little yellow bananas sticking out. That's a hermy. You know, it just flipped on you. It happens to the best of us. So again, stable genetics really matters, which is why getting these guys out of stress as fast as possible, using, once again, aussie-tonic, you know, zyme, is very important, okay, and then root builder. These are the three fundamental products that you're going to need, okay, to make this work. If you don't have to have this. I mean, plants will recover. What I'm trying to do is teach you how to recover them fastest. Most important being thiamine and B1. These are your most important stress reductions. And then, of course, the zyme being the initial, it helps the root hairs and helps with the uptake of nitrogen and various other nutrients that are fundamental at this stage. So being your NPK, nitrogen and potassium and phosphate. So we're going to move on from that to basically just letting you all know, oh yeah, BC, we're in a we're in a crazy year in Canada for our licenses, as you all know. I've been busy with politics, so my mind's kind of all over the place right now. I wanted to give a shout out. We're coming up to May 14th, election date. So we're in those final days. My friends, turn out to vote. Here in BC, I know that we got a few things going on, but Sensible BC's got a big chance at doing some stuff here. Turn out to vote for Sensible BC. Check out the BC Partners Group and what they're doing. We may be able to strike a task force and make it legal provincially in this country, and be the first, like Washington and Colorado did in the States. Only we would do it at a provincial level in BC and make it, because we can prescribe provincially. So I mean, really check out what Sensible BC is about for decriminalization, so that people don't have to go to jail anymore for small possessions of cannabis just because they want to use it. Consenting adults, okay, shouldn't need to go to jail. No more kids should have to go without their dads or their moms. Nobody should have to lose their property or their cars. You know, some of that reduction in police, and also this savings to the taxpayer. Turn out to vote. We're moving ahead, my friends. We're not far away from legalization. It's been legal in Canada for 10 years. It's going to be legal soon in Canada. Then it becomes, are we still going to be able to do what I'm doing now? Or am I going to have to buy it from somebody else to do it for me? This is Jason Wilcox, and we'll see you in the next show. Cheers.